Welcome, everyone. We are in our thriving community. I am a facilitator of a singles group. We have singles that are age 40 to 60-ish, and we're all in here to learn from each other, tell life stories, and learn from experts. We are people that are interested in the personal development and healing after marital loss or anything like that. But lately, I've been just having a passion for hearing life stories. And we're going to hear a little bit about Jeannie's story today, Jeannie Mace. So I will tell you a little bit about her, but before I do, I want to tell you why I chose her and exactly what it is that I'm doing. I think that kind of sets the tone for the whole purpose of this call. So I believe that when we tell our stories, that we either you own your story first. You have to write your story or tell it in order to own it. And when you do that, that's when you get all of your power in your life, right, Jeannie? So we've talked a little bit about that, how Brene believes that we just want to own our stories. And there are pieces and parts of our story that we might want to forget. But the more we own it, the more we are able to learn and grow from it. So this is what I want to say about our stories. It's not about where or who we came from or where we feel like we belong, even though that is part of our story. It's not about what we accomplished or didn't accomplish. Those are only gauges for mathematicians. Our life story does not tell who we are. It doesn't tell of our infinite worth. Our value is beyond anything that can be told in our life story. Our story is the detailed and overall view of what we were given or what we created. It tells what we did and what we got, how it affected us, and what we learned from it. And I want to give you the opportunity, anyone that wants to share their life story, I want to give you guys the opportunity. And I think in doing that, it allows you to own your story. And that's what, like I said, it allows you to gain power in your life. And when you share your story, you also can affect and influence others. And Jeannie's story is one of those stories that people are impacted by. Anyone who doesn't believe that people can change needs to hear Jeannie's story. She will tell us what her life was like before and during and after serving time in the Utah State Prison. And just one thing that I ask, I know Jeannie is a much more maybe open book than I might be a little more guarded, but I would my feeling is that there's no reason to ask her why she had to serve time in prison. I think the way that I look at that is if someone were to ask you, it would be similar to anyone asking you, what is the worst decision you've ever made in your life that you have the biggest regret over? What is something that, like I feel like when we ask those kinds of questions, there's just not a reason. There's not a really good personal reason to know that answer. And in fact, I'll even tell you this. I don't know if it matters to this situation, but there are people in my life that I love. I have no idea what some of their history is. I don't know. My father actually served time in prison. He's now passed, but I do not know why he served. And I was 8 years old the first time I went to visit him in prison. The very first question I asked was, "Dad, why are you here?" And as an 8-year-old, he got embarrassed, and my grandparents were upset that I asked him that. So I think there's just, as a child, you want to know, what did you do, Dad? But because we just have this understanding of what it is that we made, these choices that we make. So I just want to bring that up, that we can ask questions to Jeannie. She's open to share, and she will share whatever she feels good about sharing. It looks like there's a comment Robert wants to say. His biggest regret in life is not buying an inert bazooka for $150 when he had the chance. Well, that's pretty good, Robert, if that's your biggest regret. I think there are many other bigger regrets that I have, but that's funny. Robert's funny. You're awesome. Okay, so Jeannie, I am going to ask a few questions. So let me introduce Jeannie. Jeannie is a certified yoga instructor. She earned 2 bachelor's degrees from Weber State University in criminal justice and sociology, and a master's degree in social work from the University of Utah. She teaches yoga and helps Utah residents with affordable housing. So you can tell that she has done a lot with her life. And if anyone were to gauge this one moment in her life that she may have the biggest regret around, then you would miss out on all the things that she is actually doing with her life and for us. So I want to start off, Jeannie, letting you just share whatever you're comfortable sharing. I can ask questions, or these people can ask questions that are in the call, just to guide you and helping you to share your life story. So do you want questions, or do you want to just start saying whatever you feel like saying?
I mean, I'm okay either way. I'm okay starting off by just telling a little bit about myself. I definitely think that throughout my life, I've been defined a lot more by my mistakes than my successes. Prison sentence is a lot stronger than a college degree. But even, growing up, I was that kid that really celebrated everything that was right in the world. I adored my parents. I adored my siblings. And yes, did I know that there was some dysfunctional things going on? Yeah. But when I grew up, that stuff became magnified. The things that were wrong became magnified. Trauma stored in the body. And I start wondering what part of that trauma is everything that society says should be wrong in the world. And versus what was, and that's why I think I love looking at what was going on in society at the time. Like your story where, nobody wanted to talk about why something happened. Mm-hmm. During that time, people didn't talk about stuff. People didn't talk about anything going on. I mean, families could keep major secrets.
Yeah.
Like generations and generations if you just didn't talk about it, and, as I've gotten older, I recognize that, Parker Palmer says that violence is what happens when we don't know what else to do with our suffering. And so a lot of things that, happen in life, happens when you don't know what to do with your suffering. You don't know what to do with the pain.
Yeah, that's
and what comes out of that. So I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like when I have to explain my story, I'm like, okay, where do I even start?
Yes.
Where do I?
I'll help you.
Where do you begin?
I'll ask you some questions because that will kind of help you with the whole purpose of these questions and how they help us.
Okay.
So the first thing that I am wondering about, it's kind of fun to talk about, are maybe think of 1 or 2 stories that you love to talk about as a child. What are things that you remembered clearly about your childhood? You could tell a story, or you can tell just something about your childhood. You said these things that happen in our families and we thought there was dysfunction, but what was that like for you as a child?
Well, I think, the moments in a big, huge family, there was so much love, and there was hey, you defend each other, you fight for each other, and there's just a lot of love in our family. And being the being the 11th child and looking up at all of those brothers and sisters, like they were everything, I just absolutely adored my brothers and sisters. And, there was that like fight kind of spirit for each other. And, and then as you grow older, in a lot of ways, it's been sad to see like how we all, go in these different directions. Yeah, there's that base love is there. But it's, sad to see like, you start, politics get in the way, and all of these things get in the way from that truth and that love that was so pure and so genuine. So I had the memories of like, dancing with my siblings and singing songs, or like, one brother would start and another would start singing. And so there was just, that part was really fun. But probably for me, one of the greatest things was being an athlete wasn't the fact that I was good at it, but that in my high school years, it felt like it brought my family all together. Like it was this thing where events, and it was probably those high school years were just, so amazing. Like they all were supporting me, and it felt like, just this, beautiful thing, where, I could do anything. And I didn't set out to be like good at it, or I didn't set out to be a good student and a good kid. That was definitely, I think, an intrinsic thing for me. Like I wanted to be the good kid. I wanted to be, loved, and I wanted to, be a success even as a child. Like, so like with every mistake, I started judging myself so harshly, even like as, a very young kid, like, because I wanted to, just be that good kid in the family, to play that part.
Yeah. So are you the 11th of 11, or do you have more?
I'm the 11th of 13.
13. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And yeah, I just heard you saying before our call that you just lost one of your brothers. Is that right? Is that who?
Yes.
Yes.
We lost one of our brothers, and in a large family, you face everything, but we lost him, and it was just, it's tough, seeing any family member die. So there's a very thin line between, pain and laughter, and so there was a lot of tears and then a lot of laughing.
Memory.
And a lot of crying and a lot of laughing, and you just come together for moments like that.
Yeah.
And it's family, and for a big family, it takes death or marriage to usually bring us all together, or
True.
so those things you come together for.
It's true. Yeah, that's such a good point.
Yeah.
You think about that. It's great that we have the family together, but it's sad that this is what brought us together.
Yeah.
Sure. So what were some of your talents and interests when you were a young child or adolescent, just younger?
Well, growing up, it was, a lot. Sports was very important for me. And my brother that passed away, when I was in prison, he submitted my name, and while I was there, I was put into the Hall of Fame in Portland for sports, because as a freshman, I made varsity in 3 sports, and then graduated with 13 varsity letters. My senior year, I did very well. But I did very well in sports. But I think most importantly for me in high school, I was nice to everyone. I was just like nice to the underdog, and was definitely didn't like bullies, and was this sort of defender of the underdog. And so of course that I was a class president, and always on like the homecoming courts and the prom courts and things like that. And I just loved that look on my father's face, that he was proud of me. And that time was just, sometimes I would joke, oh great, I peaked in high school.
Yeah.
And
Oh, you chopped up a little bit. I can't hear you, Jeannie. You're chopping up. I'm not sure. Maybe just one little passing minute. It'll take a second.
What makes my story significant is that what happened. Oh, I am in Magna. Is it okay now? Growing up, I was potential. I had good grades, and I went to college on a soccer scholarship originally, and I got to college, and on that soccer scholarship, and I came out of the closet, and it absolutely, and I had all of this internalized homophobia, and just hated myself. Like when you're growing up and it's like gay, like that, it's just like ex-con, like disgusting, and yet, oh no, that's me. So I get to college, never touching alcohol, touching anything, or sex, and it kind of like probably was the beginning of like, hey, like I'll just kind of drink that away, like maybe drink the gay away. And it's part of the reason I moved to Utah. I thought maybe that would, help me, but obviously that didn't. So, didn't change that part of me. Didn't.
Right. Yeah.
You couldn't, relocate the gay away, just like you can't relocate the addiction away. It's, where you go is where you are.
Wow.
And
that's good to know too. I didn't realize that. Yeah. That is good to know.
yeah.
Learn more about. It's good for us to open our minds and learn about that, I think.
Well, and I think, even today, like it's, I come from that generation of, being lying about it and not being authentic about it. And I spent all my 20s in the closet and going back into it somewhat now. It's like I've already got one label. I don't want the other one out there. But it's, and then, where do I lose, that space where I'm just okay, with who I am.
Yeah, well, it's all about the embracing who you are, right?
Yeah.
Embracing your story.
Yep.
So I do have to tell you this. I did receive a direct message. He might have not meant to do it direct, but Troy, who's on the call, knows you. He's a family friend of yours. And he just wanted me to know that you were being modest about your athletic abilities. He said she was a beast of an athlete. You're being modest. You were a beast of an athlete. So, and it's like you're in the Hall of Fame. It's pretty amazing.
Well, and so dating me, they didn't have a 3-point line for females until my sophomore year in high school, and I think I hit like 7 3-pointers the first game. And I used to shoot way back in there just because it used to make me mad that girls didn't have a 3-point line. So I would shoot back there and then make the 3-point sign, just even though we couldn't get it back because females couldn't have it then. Yeah. So it wasn't until my sophomore year that we could. But I think, the thing about sports too is like, that, getting up and being a part of a team and working hard but also like sportsmanship. And like I came from the philosophy that you win, but without being cocky. And that's sort of kind of the way I try to live my life, coming from a space of gratitude and humility. Because when I'm looking at life through that lens and I'm showing up, in life through that lens, I'm a pretty good person. But when I show up with the victim stance and poor me, and the life is, hurt me, then no, I'm not coming from that authentic space, and I'm not showing up of service to myself and others.
Yeah.
So it's ugly. And that victim stuff is just, it's icky. No one wants to be around it.
Well, you don't heal from it, right? You don't get out of it.
No.
No way
You
to.
get to stay. Yeah, you get to stay sick when you act like that.
Ah, that's so true. Well, I would be interested to hear, if, unless it's too sensitive, you don't have to go here if you don't want to, but I am curious what life was like in prison for you.
Well, for me, well, first off, laying in bed and reading a book all day, I pretty much was like, sign me up. But I think when I got there, I was like, I live in a world without my children, so I don't care.
Yeah. Like what that you mean, like
But
my purpose? Is that what you mean? Like what is the
yeah, like, and so for me, it really was about, but what was I like in prison was the same in high school. I was kind, um, to everyone, but didn't like the bullies and didn't care. I will say something, I will defend somebody and don't care. And I was funny about everything. But I'm that person too that, like, I wake up happy. I'm a happy person, and I find humor in things. And it's like, kind of like how just people would get stressed out about something, and I'd be like, we're really busy today. We've got a lot of things going on, and kind of make humor out of the life in there. And, so I got along with, and I had worked in youth corrections for 8 years. So I'd been on the other end of it. And a lot of the women in there, I actually had been their counselor.
wow.
So there was that dynamic. Good thing they liked me, right?
Yes.
But yeah, so for me, yes, the degrading stuff, I just felt like I deserved it. And I just felt like, I deserved, whatever punishment. But I worked hard. There are some people that, go in and just kind of sit around, and you can see why. I mean, they get really depressed, and I'm not judging, but I got up, I worked hard. I worked, a lot of times I had jobs out in the community, which is rare. So, and then, I worked out, but I did tear my ACL in there, and
Oh no.
that kind of took me out of working out for a while. And that's a tough thing to happen in there, because when I finally talked the doctor into letting me get it repaired, they had to take me up to the U, and you're shackled and see people looking at you, and it's quite an experience. But I was blessed to get it repaired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that where you met my sister, Denise? Is that where
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We can talk about her, just because I don't know if everyone knows about Denise, but you can tell whatever you want about Denise when she came in. Or I can say I'll just tell this part, is that so she says that wherever your misery is, that is where your ministry is. That's how I know I'm not saying her quote.
Yeah.
But she says, look for your misery, and that's where your ministry is. And so Her misery was the fact that our father was in prison. That was really hard for all of us as his children. And that is where, so in her heart, her passionate hearts, she just wanted to serve in prison, and she wanted to be able, because we still have this love, deep love for people. We have a deep empathy for people who are serving time in prison as well. Because it's like my dad was there and I love him, and he made a mistake, and but that's kind of where that comes from for us. So she wanted to serve in prisons, and she wanted to be able to help. She certifies people to get a yoga certification, a yoga teacher instructor, right? You can say it better.
Well,
So she actually goes into these prisons and she helps the inmates to get certified as a yoga instructor. And so that is where Jeannie met my sister, Denise. And you can tell us from there what that was about, and why you did it and what you learned from it, whatever you want to say.
yeah. Well, when I first met Denise, like, here comes this bright light and this positive person that looked at all of us with like love and compassion. And, the second, she started teaching us, the yamas and the niyamas and like everything about the yoga program, I started to, because at that point, like, I couldn't see a positive future. I couldn't see, like, how do you get out and even face life? And Denise and Cynthia, like, they have this ability to show you that that's just a little part of your story. It's not all of your story. And just show up today that, the best version of yourself, and be the best version of yourself. And I think before they came in, like, I just didn't want to leave because I was so afraid of getting out. And I also, like, had so much compassion for my family. Like, I didn't know how to face them. I mean, I felt more pain for them than me, because, like, how do you explain that? Like, where's your sister? And, how do you explain, like, what she has done and where she's at and stuff? And that pain, like, I ached for what they were feeling and what they were dealing with in society over my behavior. And I realized, like, that my family loved me. They were holding this big space of love for me. We didn't communicate, the first 5 years, and it was like not out of not wanting to, but like, how do you do it? Like, and what do you say? And what does that look like? And you kind of freeze. Yeah. And the yoga program, like, I mean, yes, I was very, like, working hard, but I originally didn't want to do the program because I was like, I don't really want to be a yoga teacher. And I was talked into it by Feroza Love, and I love yoga. I always loved yoga. I did it when I was pregnant, and so I had a passion for it. But it absolutely, the second Denise walked into my life, everything changed. That.
About that one bit.
So that, that chatty brain that, like, was really good at, pointing out the bad in myself. Like, it was paused for a minute, and the program started to give me the courage to face my family and face society.
Yeah.
I
much more than stretches, right? It's so much more than stretches and
yeah, and I've got, like, Denise got me this necklace, and it says peace starts here. And, that movement that, this peace starts with me, and it's also a call to all Americans to come together as one family. And I can tell you, and then when I got out of prison, I was like, oh, I'm not going to teach in the community. And Denise is like, oh, yes, you are. Yeah. And, it's like that sort of push, that constant push. And she's more like, okay, yep, let's get it done. All right, here you go. But having people in your life, like my family and Denise, that if they're telling me, I wanted to live that yoga life, I wanted to be that person that, is following ahimsa and is being kind and loving to others and not stealing and being truthful and, being, this person that walks a little softer on the earth, that when you walk away from someone's life, that they say, hey, I'm grateful that person was in my life, and I'm grateful for what they did for me. And instead of being, the person, because it is extremely hard, to fail as a mother. It's like you have to pick up your heart and sort of, tuck it away and move through life. Yeah. But the yoga program teaches you that, guess what? Everyone has painful stories that they have to, tuck away to get through the day, and get up and, show up for life. And, we're all those parts and we're all of those things. And so I'm so grateful. And then I get out and Denise is like, okay, do the 300-hour program. I'm like, oh, no. And I'm so grateful that I did that program, because I was just brought into this yoga community in a space where I spoke freely. And by speaking freely, it gives everybody else permission to speak freely. And in that space and in that setting, I just was like this, the masks, everything was off. It was, just a healing space and a loving space. It wasn't about judgment. It was about, okay, this is what has happened. But in yoga, it's about putting your feet on the mat and showing up today. And so sitting here talking about, well, I was really fit 5 years ago, but I've kind of gotten out of, shape today. Like all that being fit 5 years ago doesn't affect today. It's like, what can I do today to speak my truth and to be the best version of myself, so that when I do see my children, they will meet the totality of who I am, and not just the one story they've been told.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that they, maybe they'll get to hear these other stories about their mother.
Yes. That is amazing that you're thinking that too, thinking forward. And we can go there. I do have a couple of questions, but since you brought that up, we also work on creating our future stories. And so it sounds like that's what you're doing and what you have done, and where you can say, well, this is how I have it worded. It says, you were a hero to many people. Why would you say that, and what did you do? If you look into the future, what would people say about you? The kind of friend that you are, the kind of like, why were you a hero to your children? Why would your children say you were a hero? That's kind of a fun way to look forward to what you want to create. But it's hard.
Well, I think it's that kind. I think it's that I genuinely see the best versions of people, and I'm kind to everyone, and find ways to connect with people. And I walk into my sister's house, and all the kids are, yeah, Jeannie, jumping in my arms. But I think it's the way that children feel safe with me, because I am kind, and I don't I don't I don't believe in putting down. I don't believe in sarcasm. And I don't believe in those like hurtful comments. I don't do that. I don't like it. And it's not how I treat people. Um,
And children
and
feel
so
sorry.
yeah, children really feel that. But I think, in that dark place where it's more popular, to be, a badass, or, treat people mean. I never changed, and I was still kind. And that's, I think, I care about humans, and I care, and I can tell you this: when I got out and I walk into a pandemic and the fighting, like my stomach was sick, like mask, no mask, this, the gloves were on. I was like, hey, can I go back? I'm just gonna go. Yeah, it's nuts out here, I walked out into this pandemic, and where there was so much fighting, and I wanted to be the one going, okay, let's be nice, I wanted to be the one.
Yeah.
They're like, I believe in vaccines. Okay, I do too. I don't believe in it. Okay, I do. Let's just, I believe in this. Okay, me too. Okay, me too. Like, and maybe possibly like, was I not authentic at times? And said, okay, this is truly what I believe. Yeah, but I wanted us just to come together for a minute, for a second. Like, everybody put the gloves off, don't care what side you're on for a second. And I hated watching what it did. And so if I'm in a room, like, yes, I do believe, like, I want to be on the right side of history, and I do have my views. But a lot of times, and I think, maybe because of, where I was, like, and watching people fight over, a toothbrush or shampoo. I wanted us to just have some kindness,
Yeah.
and just, for a minute, like, is it more important to be right or kind in it? And oftentimes for me, it's just kind.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to be right. I can't remember who said that.
Sorry. Jeannie, what was your timing like when when did you, what do you call it, graduate from Denise's program? And then what was the timing of when you left prison?
Well, so at the time when Denise first came in, I think it was like December 2017. And she was starting the program then. And I was actually offered to leave the prison in January of 2018 to go do a cook's program. And I was like, no. And I'm glad I said no. And of course, everyone, is like, you could get out, girl. But I didn't think that, was the path for me at the time. I was teaching and doing a lot of good things at the time. And so I wanted to do the yoga program in there, because after I met Denise, I was like, this is it. Like, the second I met her, like, there was that desire to, like, get into the program and do the program and be a part of it. And then I chose to not sign, and so I was able to finish the program in there. And So, and then that was 2019. And then right after that, I started the 300-hour program. And, I'm just completely grateful for that, like to be able to go straight into that program. And, I may resist sometimes, doing, the hard thing, but it always is the right thing.
Yeah.
I mean, and even teaching yoga out in the community, I was like, oh, I can't do it. And once I did it, like, and I do believe, from my sports background and stuff, that teaching is something that I do love. But yoga teaching and the Dharma talks and, offering up, a space for my students of love and gratitude is something I'm very grateful for.
Awesome.
But
Oh, yeah. I keep interrupting you. I'm sorry. Finish what you were saying.
Well, no, I was going to say, and one thing that, I've really learned lately is that, people want you to get out and do good, but they don't want you to do too good. I've faced a lot of, like, anytime I'm doing too good, I've had many people call, like ABC News, and, say, hey, you've got this person working for you, you should fire them. And I've had to walk through that several times. So it's like, if you're just doing okay, like, don't do so bad, don't be a criminal, but, maybe don't do too good. And it's something that has happened to me through the last 4 years, and it can often, really derail you.
Yeah.
But, the yoga and, really helps you to recognize that, all I have to do is show up in my own space.
Yeah.
And for myself and my family.
Well,
And
you need to hear your story. Oh, and your what?
and my seniors that I love so much,
That's right. That's right. So people that I was just saying, people need to hear your story, and then they wouldn't be like that, I think. That they can believe in someone that changes. Hopefully we want people to know that people can change.
We do, but I think, it's like, that's why people ask, what is your crime? Because then you get to, right from that moment, decide if they're forgivable or not. If it was it forgivable enough or not forgivable enough, or
well, yeah.
And I think that's why it's the question that people ask, right from the beginning.
It's true. But then also, when even hearing myself say people can change, I don't even, that's even implying that you were a different person at a certain point, and that's not the case. So,
it's, and I think, exactly. And it's like, when they say that you're just, you should be like, your life should be moving this way. Well, no, I mean, your days here one day and here and here and here. I mean, I think at any time, like to say, you're either good or bad, or your choices are in one direction. No, there's all versions of, what you look like in life.
Yeah. So I just have a couple more things, and then I would open it up to questions. Anyone that wants to ask Jeannie any questions. But one thing I did want to talk about is, so when I edit this video and post it, I will share the picture of you on the Capitol Hill. You got the opportunity. You had the opportunity to do a little yoga segment or something. Was that on Capitol Hill? You had hundreds of people. You were leading them in yoga, right? That was just a couple of years ago. You can tell us about that.
And it's, again, Denise said, do you want to teach with me at the Capitol? And I said, no. So, and then I thought about it, and I'm like, what an opportunity. And I remember standing there and just looking out at all those people. And I just said to them, if, a few years ago, I, was serving time at the Utah State Prison. And today I'm here with you right now. So if you could see what I see, and if you could feel what I feel, like, it was overwhelming.
I bet. That's amazing. So yeah, I'll share that picture too. That's incredible. So now I'm going to open up anyone that wants to say, have any other questions that I might have missed, or just share your love with Jeannie. You're such a sweet person. And I love learning more about you and your story. I did want to ask you what it was like too. And maybe, I don't know if this was what anyone else would have thought. What was it like for you? Well, you did touch a little bit on it, but when you left, but like now, what is life like for you now? And I would love for us also building understanding, for us to know what life is like. Well, just what can we avoid saying, asking you, we've talked about that a little bit, but what are some things that how's the best way to support you and encourage? And anyway, there are some things that we probably should not say that would probably be appreciated by you.
Well, and I really think it depends on the relationship, and it depends on the space. Like, if it's the right space or forum to discuss it, then yeah, I mean, there's a lot that would offer what happened and what their experience is. And it just depends on the relationship that you have,
the motive, for sure. What is your
motive? Yeah, exactly. And it's like the motive, that's a great word, a really good word, because a lot of times it is to hold it over you, or to say you don't deserve the position that you have based on your crime or based on what you've done. And for me, like, what the job I have right now is my ability to, like, not use the word like repent, but to, like,
restitution.
Yeah, like, it really is, like, every moment. And to walk in, and especially in affordable housing, when I work with seniors that have generations of poverty and addiction. And I mean, I feel like it's the same population as the prison, but I walk in, and they are so excited. When I went to the Hawaii retreat with Denise, I mean, the staff kept texting me like, oh my goodness, where's Jeannie? When is she coming back? Like, and so to know that I'm of service to them, and I help them, and do go the extra mile. And during the pandemic, I kept my door open. I didn't stop the pandemic from keeping me from supporting them. I just didn't. But I think recognizing that it is really difficult. The first year is really tough. I mean, it's hard to find housing. I mean, it's hard to find employment. I mean, there's all of those things. And then at the same time, I had like a stack of things that, I was required to do that cost a lot of money, weekly counseling, weekly everything. So, I mean, I think just being kind, and recognizing that there might be relapses, and there might be, destructive behavior. You might see a person put themselves in harm's way, because it's a lot to face. It's a lot to look at families' eyes, and face, society. And there's not one space where they let you forget. There's no space at all.
Yeah. Tim says, I'm proud of you for sticking it out. It is very hard walking the walk.
Yeah.
Yeah, very proud. That's awesome.
Well, and it's funny because I if you're talking to me, not in this setting, if there's like this articulate, competent person, you put that camera on me and I'm like, who out there is out to hurt me, and what, oh no, how's this, so I get fidgety, and I'm like, I'll lose my words, and it comes from that space of, am I safe? And this part of me that wants to just be authentic and say it all, but knowing that when I've done that, it hasn't always turned out, when my ex used to say, you don't have to tell your whole story to everybody in Walmart. And it's actually funny, but if I feel safe, I would share everything, there's nothing that I wouldn't admit, because that's how I feel, I move forward. It's how I get better at life.
That's how you
but I've learned, I'm realizing, there's just a lot of spaces that you should just not share your story. And Brene Brown is right. Not everyone even deserves it, because the thing is the people that are going to have their version of you have it, because you're not going to change them.
Jeannie, I probably should have told you this before we started, that well, I might have, but this is shared in a pretty safe environment. We're very screened. It's all Christian singles and influencers, so therapists and life coaches, and it's a pretty screened and protected environment. So it's not public. I might have told you that I was going to share it public, but it would be publicly in our Facebook group, and it would be screened. But also, do you know what's funny? I don't know if you noticed a message I might have shared, is that right now I'm in Facebook jail. Did I tell you that?
Oh yeah.
So I have that right now going on, and I didn't deserve it. I'm one that's saying I'm a victim. I didn't deserve this. But the point is, it's private. It's a private group.
Well, you like, with this whole thing is, our past allows us to be compassionate. Well, now you have an understanding of other people in Facebook jail.
Yes. And you could tell us more, help us more if you want to, about what it's like to be in prison, really. Like, what is it like? What is it like? You're restricted in every way. That's what I was curious about, is what is life like in prison?
Well, I will say, the saddest thing is that not very many people get to stay in the prison. Most people are all doing their time in county jails, where there's no education, there's no chapel, and what happens is, you wonder why the recidivism rate, but they have to put all those people in the jails to keep the jails open. But when you're actually lucky enough to be in the prison, you have access to that. You have access to the chapel and the church and education, taking college classes. But when you're counted out, you're just laying in a bed for however many years. And there's not a lot, of any kind of restorative or corrections going on. So
like you just it seems like you would walk away, right? You just like you were saying, and this chattering thoughts that we have, the self-talk we have, just would wilt away in that mentality, it seems like.
Yeah, and you become really grateful for that. And they also have a sweat lodge, and I became really close with the lady that runs the sweat lodge out there, and really blessed to have such a spiritual warrior in my life as her. Her whole thing is, if something happens, pray. And, so I went monthly, and so we fasted once a month and prayed in that community. And there's something that happens with that. There's something to be said about, fasting and praying in that environment. And, you'd walk back to the unit and just, you could feel that light and all the chaos around you wouldn't even bug you. And it was the same thing. You see the people that are in the yoga program, they were walking around and everyone can see that change. And there'll be a lot of people trying to take you out because they see that lightness, they see that brightness and that confidence and that soft, humility and they want a piece of it. And I think that's where they either try to take them out or, want to change their lives themselves. Health inspires health. So, and the officers see it. They love and support the yoga program because now they've seen what it's done.
Yeah.
And it's the kindness that it spreads and the love that it spreads in that community. It's just, there's really
changing the environment of the prison, it seems like, with all inmates and security.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh yeah.
So there's a question for you from Robert. What advice would you give for a church member who has been in prison and feel like they're being ostracized by other people in the church? What would you say to that person? Have you gone back to church after prison to know what it feels like? What would you say to that person that feels like they're ostracized because of other people in the church are judging them from their past experiences?
Well, I think again, it's like, okay, particular people, because, when I got out and was at Orange Street, the group of LDS women, like, they are very bright and loving and supportive. And, so I think it's, you're going to get those members, but in any faith, right? But there's always going to be the ones that are like, you're showing up today, you're here today, and how can I help? But so I definitely think it depends on the member. But I also have learned that, a lot of the things like what people, say about me is, my business. And I always joke, judge me silently, okay? And if you have anything bad to say about me, say it behind my back, not to my face. I'm good with that. And in prison, people used to just die laughing because it'd be like, girl, you got something to say it to my face. And I'd be like, oh no, not mine. I'm good. Pass, I don't, yeah.
That's so funny.
So I also know too that, the most judgment comes from people that have possibly done it themselves or recognize it because they've done it, or
well,
there's
that's good to think about that, where it's consider the source. So Robert, tell them.
Yeah.
One thing that I also am learning, and I had a conversation with my daughter about this today, is I want to help her focus on self-esteem, self-worth, self-image. It's all, the key word is self. How you feel about yourself is 100% of what goes on. If anyone else around you doesn't agree, then that's their problem. It's not yours. So that's what I was telling her. Really, I want you to love yourself so much that it doesn't matter what anyone else is saying. It really does not matter. So that might be part of it too, is that allow for them to start with forgiving themselves, right? Forgiving themselves and saying, look where I am today and look what I've accomplished. And that, it might just be, they might feel ostracized because of maybe how they feel about themselves too. That might be where it starts. I don't know. But then there's
Yeah.
another words of some other tip from another participant that's in here that said, he says, let me read it. I just closed it. He says, I want you to know that I have had a similar experience with the system. You are not alone. So he said. So he's had a similar experience where, yeah.
Yeah, and it's, more and more that there's it we know somebody and somebody knows somebody, and so, and we definitely live in a society where a lot of times the people that are incarcerated are the ones that don't have money. I didn't have a good attorney. I mean, I had a public defender, um, and it's mostly the poor that end up really incarcerated. The ones, the rich can oftentimes, you
It's,
know,
that makes sense. I've never thought about that, but yeah, you can pay
but
off.
for me too, it's not necessarily about, what put me in there, but all the other stuff too. It's, anytime, I've done something that, just, sort of rots it and hurts my soul, and I realized, like, I have to change, the narrative, because, I have to see myself as everybody else sees me, see myself the way that my family sees me. That like, here I'm a loving and a kind person. And but I know that, at any, and I feel like, at any point, any person could, commit anything under the certain situation, or under, any kind of, pain or loss, or, you know, hurt. It just,
Yeah.
it can happen.
Enough. Yeah, it's true. And that was the first thing I thought of, is some people are just caught,
Yeah, it's
people are caught.
even, that's one thing, I really like about the yoga community is, you do get a lot of people saying, you know, it could have been me, and by the grace of God, or by the grace of their higher power, or it isn't them, but it's having compassion for what their whole story is, and not just that one part of their story. And nobody wants to be judged on just that one part of them, but it really, like, and I can tell you, it really defines you more, than any kind of successes and things. And I think I try to overcompensate in other places. Like, my sister's like, before, I wasn't the person that walked around like complaining, about everything on my body. And I found myself, after, like, well, maybe if I fix everything externally, and and then I'm like, whoa, the yoga program, and even like the sweat lodges, and chanting and prayer, has taught me that no, because everything, when you fix the inside, it just shows on the outside. You can see it, and those are the people you gravitate towards. So, yes, I can, do whatever out here, but when I'm good on the inside, everyone notices.
It's true. And I've noticed you have such an open heart that I think that's what you attract, are the open-minded, open-hearted, compassionate people, that the others just kind of fall out. They're just not even going to mess with it, I would hope.
Yeah.
But it seems
and I generally, have like a real humor side to things, and a humor side, and can find humor in almost anything. And I think that, but that when I'm in that space too, I'm fun to be around.
Yes. Well, I can tell that. I know we have been more serious today, haven't we? We haven't joked
Yeah,
as
and
much
I
as
need,
we'd like to probably.
yeah, and I
I was going to ask Troy if he wanted to share a story from childhood that he knows that he wants to share with Jeannie. Do you remember when? I don't know, Troy, if he wants to do that, but Troy grew up, but I don't know. You have
Yeah,
to.
I don't know that I remember a particular story, but as Jeannie was talking, there's a lot of even what Jeannie described as she was growing up that I was not aware of. We went to church together, I think from we were about 7 years old, clear till we graduated high school. And then Jeannie moved on and I went on my mission. And so we spent a lot of time together. We graduated at different high schools, but same year. So we were in every class together, went to every activity together. We spent a lot of time together. And, I only know probably half to 2/3 of her siblings. When you're the youngest of 13 or go toward the bottom of the 13, I don't know the older ones real well. I mean, I know who they are, but there's probably about what, 3 or 4 of us, I think. Polly, Jeannie, you, Bobby, and Adam, pretty much the 4 of us, maybe Terry a little bit, but there was a few. But what I do remember is, and it's interesting to hear the story because I look back and I go, yeah, I can see that. Like, you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. You don't know what goes on in the family. I only knew what I saw. And as Jeannie tells her story, and she doesn't need me for credibility, but it's always interesting when someone tells their story to have someone else that's like, yeah, I remember that too. What I do remember is they do have a lot of love, that they always, I don't remember a time. I'm sure they fought because they were siblings, but I don't remember a time, right? I don't remember any of those. What I do remember is Jeannie and her sister Bobby, they were always the life of the class. And there were times, and Jeannie, you'll know what I'm talking about, even there were times mom had to come in and sit there because they were the life of the class. But it was never because they were never, and to Jeannie's, what she said about herself, I would agree with. It wasn't because they were picking on anybody. They were just very social. Her and Bobby were very social. They weren't picking on anybody. They were not rude to teachers. I remember a particular class. Jeannie, do you remember Paul and Rosemary Folk?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, and I'll have side note to that. About 3 weeks ago, I went to Paul's funeral, and this weekend I'm going to Rosemary's funeral. They just passed. So, but there are a couple that were in our ward, wonderful people. They were great, and we just spent a lot of time together. But I do remember that Jeannie would show up to activities many, many times in some kind of athletic attire, like basketball uniform, soccer, coming right from practice just to get to youth night or whatever. But yeah, she was always motivational, always encouraging. And it's interesting because, Jeannie and I are connected on Facebook. We've been friends on Facebook for years. Now, Jeannie's not a big Facebook person. She doesn't post a lot on there about her life. But I will tell you, Jeannie, I didn't even know you had done any time until I got this message about 10 days ago that you were speaking.
So I hope that's okay, Jeannie. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
There would be people, yeah.
Well, and I say that really kind of to Robert's comment a little bit, and Robert, not to minimize at all, but I wasn't aware. And I had run into your mom, and I had, there's Facebook. I'm Facebook connected with a lot of your family. And I guess my point with that is the word wasn't out, and that's good because it doesn't matter, right? What you've got going is what you've got going. And I had no idea that this was your story until tonight.
Well, you might feel like, Jeannie, that I can tell that's touching, that you might feel like everybody knows this about me, and all of my reputation is changed or something. That's where I think I might go, which I know is not helpful, but I think that's normal to feel that.
Yeah, it is. But I do know that, there are a lot of people that, just want, the best for me. And like, there's always going to be the people that, don't think you deserve happiness. But it's like talking to your daughter, like I live in a world where I get to pray for my children. And, I have a sister that lost a child. Um, you know, so I recognize that happiness is just here within me. You're getting up and exercising and, showing up for myself and showing up for life. And I constantly say that, no matter what, just show up for life. And, and I, like Terry said, pray, and not like, do I deserve it? Am I deserving of it or not deserving of it? I mean, I hate that word. And it's interesting when when my daughters were little, I used to say, like, they'd be like, is that a bad guy, Mom? Or is that a bad guy like in the Disney movies? And I'm like, honey, there's no bad guys, just bad choices.
Yeah.
Like,
Awesome.
and so, I had a daughter that was just in love with, bad guys like Ursula and Mother Gothel. She'd be like, well, if Mother Gothel, yeah, she'd be like, well, maybe if Mother Gothel didn't steal the baby, she would be good, Mom. Like, and I think it's like recognizing that, it's certain choices that we make, at times, but it's not all of them, but when I am building up that love and space of where it's not about, do I deserve it? Because everyone does, and everyone loves. And I don't, whatever faith that you walk in, it's like, would a father or would a mother, with the universe, whatever, which think about how much you love your child, so, and I look at my nieces and nephews and, I just want more than anything is for them to find something that they love and to love themselves more than anything. So I have to give myself that same permission.
Yes.
I mean, and I can tell you, like, to walk out those doors and, see the wonderful people that they became and, raising their children, it's like, you're going to see what you want to see in life, and there's, so I'm going to show up and see, the good and the beauty of what's happening.
Wow.
Definitely.
That's so good. Jeannie, I have loved everything that you've shared. I really appreciate you sharing this because I know that there are people who can relate to you. Like you've mentioned earlier, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've had to serve time to relate to how you feel. We all have moments when we feel down on ourselves and we need to pull ourselves out of it and see ourselves for are. And I love that you said it's a choice. It's not who we are. It doesn't define us. So so good.
Well, and it's like with yoga, I've learned, like, a lot of people show up to a yoga class because something's happened in their life. Like, they've had a physical illness, they've had, something happen in their life, like, and they show up to the mat, to improve their life. And so I think, it's really, helped me move into society, because, I'm not the only one that's showed up to a yoga class in a yoga room wounded and, having, some sort of pain in life. And, mine is no bigger or better. And, like that feeling that your pain is so unique, is really a horrible thing, and it gives you permission to stay disconnected from community. And when you're connected with others, and know that others have gone through hard things, we all heal.
Yes.
It's funny, we're talking about it at the yoga retreat, and Denise, I can't remember exactly what she's saying, like Brene Brown said that the worst thing you can teach your child is that they're like special and unique. That's like the worst thing, because like thinking that your pain is the worst in the world, and that it gives you permission to stay isolated and stay wounded and stay the victim, and instead of showing up for life and showing up for others, and being of service. And it's it sure has helped me in my life, service. And and I think that I have that philosophy of like giving back, and and having that, I think pushes me forward to want to be a better person, and want to be there for my family, and and my coworkers, and in any space I can.
Yeah. So good. So the very last thing I would love for you to close with is, if you want, you mentioned in an interview about how you feel like your heart is constantly breaking open. And so anyway, if there's anything you have to say about that, that's something that that I actually used as the theme, because it's what it feels like for us, constantly breaking open.
Yeah, and it's like, there was a quote that was like, keep breaking your heart, until it stays open. And for me, why it resonated, so deeply is that, if I can continue to do hard things and continue to face, anything that comes at me, someone, going to the media, or, someone judging me based on, anything. Every time I show up and do hard things, I get a little bit stronger, and it's not that I get a little bit like, oh, it's gonna every single time, because one thing I've learned about life is you don't check off an issue. It will keep coming up. But
So you learned
sort of, yeah, it's like I used to think, okay, I worked on that, I should be done with that one, no. And it'll come up, and Pema Chodron says that it'll continue to come up until it teaches you what you need to learn. And I'm always like, dang, this one's really teaching me a lot. Like, haven't I? Yeah.
I know. I feel that way too. And that's the whole being thing. I was single forever. I was single until I was 33. And then I was married for 13 years and then divorced. And now I'm single again. And that's exactly what I think it a lot. Why am I single again? What didn't I learn the first time? I thought I knew it all. Obviously.
Yeah. And it's really tough to be single, and for me, it feels even tougher, because like that I blame myself. I mean, obviously I blame myself, but at the same time, it gives me compassion for, how isolated and lonely my seniors are. I can, obviously, relate to, what that looks like and what that feels like. And, and do my best. But so the whole, breaking open of the heart is the fact that, like, I just, I just keep showing up. And, there's times when I may, be a wreck again, there's times where, I'll go, wow, that version of me just appeared again, but most of the time I get a little bit better at it, and I walk through it a little bit easier. So that's just it. I'm not I think at this point in my life, it's not like something that some destination I needed, to get to, like, having all those goals when you're younger, like you're gonna, like, I'm gonna be married, I'm gonna have all these kids, and I'm gonna and then I'm like, oh crap, I'm gay though. Oh crap, now I'm in prison. Now, I mean, you're like, wait a minute, this wasn't my story.
Yeah.
I was voted most humorous and all of these things, like, but the version that I had thought of as a child, and I think, like sort of shedding, that story constantly, shedding, all that hurt. And I think the pandemic, really brought up a lot of, like, fighting and isolation.
Ignore it all. I don't watch the news. Yeah. I don't fight. I don't bring up politics. I just stay away from it.
Well, and I mean, I don't, my thing is too, is like, I don't mind.
Right.
Yeah, it's like, I don't mind if they do it, and, I don't mind it if, but for me, after, my experience, I'm like, I don't need another court case here. Okay. I have a sister that loves watching those, law shows, and I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Like, no,
that would be,
hard pass, but.
Oh, exactly. And it could be triggering. Some of it might be triggering. That's what I would think.
Yeah, yes and no. I mean, I think
not interesting.
I think that's
been there, done that.
Yeah, and it's funny. It's triggers are. It's interesting because, like, sometimes I'm like, am I conjuring this? Am I like trying to, like, it's the day of a death, the day a person died or this or that, versus when something like really hits your soul, like, then that's the moment where, I, like, need to, really, pray, or, do some yoga, go for a run, do something healthy so that I get out of that space.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you, Jeannie. Does anyone have any questions before we sign off? I don't want to just cut it off so shortly, but we actually have had a great conversation. I really appreciate all that you've shared, Jeannie.
Thank you.
No one else has anything else. We'll just sign off.
I love you, Jeannie. You're great.
Love you.
Awesome that you could be here, Troy. Very cool.
Very cool. Thank you, Sheri.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too, honey.
Bye.